Welcome into Second Down right here on ESPN Radio. Christian Gokel alongside Cam Urshery and Southern Brit. Glad to have y'all hanging out with us on this Tuesday afternoon. Have so much to dive into on the show today, Cam. The Braves just can't get back to 500, man. They start teetering. They get up there, get your hopes up, and they start falling back. We'll dive into that as they fall to the Pirates 11-1 last night. Also, just after we got off the show yesterday during 3 and Out, Nate McMillan removes the interim tag. He becomes the guy in Atlanta, signs a long-term deal. So we're going to see what the process looks like under Nate McMillan. Also have a ton of college football to dive into. The Heisman Trophy Trust came out with an interesting statement regarding Reggie Bush and others that I think have been affected by the NCAA. Also a little bit later, coming up on 3 and Out, we'll catch up with Nick Fitzgerald, former Richmond Hill Wildcat, also Mississippi State Bulldog, and a guy who I think could have taken advantage of this name, image, and likeness stuff. So we'll catch up with him coming up around 3:35. But so much to dive into today, Cam. But I wanted to get your opinion quickly here on the Nate McMillan hire, because I think it's something we all saw coming. But throughout the run, we were like, all right, when are they going to remove the interim tag? I think that's probably just his agent doing his job, saying, let's make sure we get the best deal for our guy. And that might mean talking to some other teams just to drive that price point up.
Most definitely. He's deserving of it. Nate McMillan, I think his record with the Hawks was like 30-14 after he took over when there was 14-20. He did a great job. Eastern Conference Finals, the first time they've won in the Eastern Conference Finals since they've been in Atlanta. Excellent job and deserving of the 4-year contract. Like I said a few weeks ago, he deserves a lifetime contract turning this team around. Not a great all-star core, but just a solid core, something to look forward to. And I guess you could say, personally, I'm glad that he held out and looked at his options, because he could have got something better per se. But I'm glad he's Atlanta Hawk, and let's see what they could do next year fully healthy.
And so what I think is wild is at the beginning of this year, if I had said power rank the Atlanta sports teams, it probably would have been Braves, Falcons, Hawks, right? The pro teams. The Hawks made it to the semifinals in their sport. And so I think Nate McMillan clearly deserving of the job. But I just think it's crazy that 180 that's kind of happened in terms of Atlanta sports over the past year.
Oh, right, for sure. And Coach McMillan just unlocking that kind of superstar talent, unlocking their potential, just shows that his reward paid off. So I'm glad that he's being rewarded for that. It's about time. I think we have an exciting look to the future as Georgians, with those sports.
Well, and really young-ish cast of stars, right? Because I'm not going to call Matt Ryan young. I think we might be coming towards the end of that. But Calvin Ridley, a young superstar in the NFL. Trae Young, a young superstar in the NBA. When you look at the Braves, Ronald Acuna is one of the 5 most recognizable faces right now. And Ozzie Albies is unbelievable. He's having an all-star season. Oh, and by the way, you have the NL MVP playing first base. So just a really young core in the city of Atlanta. But for Nate McMillan, I think to take, like you said, Cam, nothing changed in terms of the team from Lloyd Pierce to Nate McMillan. It was just one coaching philosophy versus another. He took that same bit of ingredients and just made a way better meal out of it, right? And the job that he did. So now if he can sit there with Travis Schlenk and he actually has some input into who he wants to target this offseason, we could even see this grow from here, I think.
If anything, they lost more. And the reason why I say when Nate McMillan inherited the job, he was missing DeAndre Hunter, who people think John Collins is the second option.
Yeah.
DeAndre Hunter is the second option. And then they didn't have Cam Reddish, who came back. You saw him in the Bucs series, the energy he brought the last several games where he went 6 or 7 from the 3-point line, 21 points off the bench. He was missing those guys all season. So imagine what they could have done against Philly or against the Bucs if they had both of them guys fully healthy for the whole series. But you still have to give them hats off. But I think they need another piece, like another superstar. But they're going to be something to reckon with in the East this year.
Yeah, I doubt, Southern, that we see another playoff run where LeBron James goes out, Anthony Davis goes out, Trae Young gets hurt, Giannis gets hurt, Kyrie Irving gets hurt, James Harden get hurt, Donovan Mitchell goes out. I doubt we see another playoff run where like all the superstars just get wiped out going forward, because that's what happened. I'm not taking anything away from the Suns, Cam, but they, at the end of it, and this might be why they win the championship, not taking anything away from Chris Paul and what they've done out there, they might win this because at the end, their stars are healthy, right? So the Hawks they can't, I think, sit back and say, we have a core that made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. We can just win with that. I think now the realization should be we showed people what we can be. Now we got to add to it.
Right. And again, unlocking that potential and taking advantage of those opportunities that, no one wants anyone else to get hurt, but people got hurt. People lost out, and the Hawks took advantage of that. Coach McMillan took advantage of that, and now he's being rewarded for reaping those benefits. So I'm excited to see how Coach McMillan takes advantage of that in the next coming playoff. So we'll see how that goes.
I don't know. I'm kind of the mind where Cam, it could be next year you get bounced in the first round, and all of a sudden people are like, what? Why would we hire this Nate McMillan guy? It's like, I don't know, man. That Eastern Conference could be really good again next year because the Bucks aren't going anywhere. The Knicks will probably get better. If I have to imagine the Nets, if they keep that core together, they're going to be the preseason favorites to win it all starting next year. So I think the East is better than a lot of people give it credit for. Also, the 76ers, they can figure out what the hell's going on with Ben Simmons and can add just a couple of pieces to that team. They could be elite again. I mean, they were the 1 seed this year. So I don't know if it's Eastern Conference or bust from here on out for Nate McMillan, but if you can add a piece and all of a sudden you're competing and around there every single year, it's just such a switch from what we've seen from the Hawks over the past few years.
See, that's the bad thing about being an Atlanta fan. We get greedy.
We
get really, really greedy. And my problem that I have with is if they don't get a superstar, you're not going anywhere.
No.
You're not going back to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like you said, you have the Nets. You have the 76ers. The Bucks are going to get better. They're going to the finals this year without their superstar the last couple of games. Then you have the New York Knicks, things of that nature, who could go get a big fish because they're a big market. If the Hawks could go get Bradley Beal, I don't even know if that's enough to propel them to Eastern Conference Finals appearance, but it'll make them better. They still need to go get a superstar, but you're right. We might be looking at a first-round exit next year or a second round, but it's still – Nate McMillan's there for the job.
But I don't think that's disappointing, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. It might be disappointing if you go out and you get another superstar to pair next to Trae Young and Bogdanovich and Herter. But if it's the status quo in terms of the roster, I don't think making it to the first round is a disappointment, right? But like you said, you victim of your own success. You made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, so that's the barometer now. It's Eastern Conference Finals or bust, apparently, for Nate McMillan. Quickly here, Braves fall to the Pirates last night, 11-1. They gave up more runs to the Pirates than they had scored in their past 5 games combined. Looking to right the ship tonight. You put Ian Anderson on the mound against Chad Kuhl, but I don't know. I mean, what is it about this team? It's when the pitching's hot, the bats go away. When the bats go cold, the pitching's there. It's just you can't seem to catch it. Last night it was bad on every single end. You scored a run in the first inning, and then you got shut out for 8 innings by the Pirates. You had a bunch of dudes you never heard of hitting bombs off you. Last night, one of those ones you just got to throw away, but it's just something weird and clunky about this team. It just kind of feels like they're trying to limp their way to the All-Star break.
They're the most inconsistent team in baseball. That's what I call them.
I'll call it the most consistently inconsistent.
Consistently inconsistent.
Yeah, I mean, they're 41-43. They just lost to one of the worst teams, the second or third worst team in baseball last night by 10 runs. They play them 2 more nights, and then you're going on a pretty hard stretch after the Marlins. You get a 3-game stretch after that, and it's pretty hard after that, and you're not taking advantage of these games. I don't see where the Braves catch up in this division. I don't want to be the one to say it, but
it's wild though, because it's like you feel like you're so many games back, but right now, 4.5 games behind the Mets right now. So you're not out of it by any stretch of the imagination. It's just, when are you going to hit that run? Because I think that's what Braves fans have been waiting for all year and they've been on a good stretch here. Not a great stretch, but they've been on a good stretch as of late. But when are you going to hit that 7-game win streak, right? When are you going to go on that run where you win 8 out of 10 and you go 4 or 5 games over 500? Because that's what Braves fans are waiting for. This team has not been over 500 all year.
They obviously need to find their jive. They need to find their momentum. And to remind you, they won against the Pirates when they had their 4-game series in May. And I mean, it just seems like they cannot find their groove. And obviously they have to find that to come out on top. But again, that Georgia curse, man, I'm just seeing it over and over and over again.
It hurts. It hurts because you know how talented this team is. And I know there have been so many injuries, but still, when you go at the top and you start with Freddie Freeman and Ronald Acuna and Ozzie Albies, and as good as Austin Riley has been, you feel like they should score more than 1 run. I mean, and they're the team where I believe right around 50% of their runs come off of home runs, right? So reliant on the home runs. When you don't hit them like last night, you're not going to win baseball games when you're that reliant on home runs. I mean, how many games in a row did we have a few weeks ago where the only runs in those games came off of a singular home run inside of the game, right? So it's been amazingly inconsistent for the Braves. They have to find a way to get the bats going. And I'm not going to talk about hitting home runs. You need singles. You just need timely hitting. Last night, you had Ronald Acuna get on base. Freddie Freeman hits a double to start the game. I think it took 49 seconds of game time for the Braves to score a run, right? You get Ronald Acuna on, get him all the way around, scores from first when Freddie Freeman hits a double, and they bobble the ball in the outfield. So you have a runner standing on second, and that's the only run you get across. So you have a runner on second, nobody out with one run in, and you're not able to get another run across.
Against one of the worst teams
Against one of the worst teams in the league. One that you're like, okay, let's take advantage of the series with these guys. I mean, you still got a chance to win the series, but it's a rough look when you start the game that hot and then all of a sudden you get blanked the rest of the way. It's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow. I know Brian Snickers had a lot to answer for this year, and hasn't been dealt a great hand, but still just a lot to answer for so far this year. Still, not even halfway through the season yet. You're not out of the race by far in the NL East. You're right there. Like I said, just one 7-game stretch where you catch fire and you could be in first place in the NL East. It's just losing 11-1 to the Pirates sucks. And I think that's okay to say. We got to take a quick break here. We'll come back. Got a lot of college football to dive in today on the show. Christian Gokel alongside Cam Ursery and Southern Brit here on Second Down. We'll be right back after this. Go Charlie here talking to you, distracting you. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Christian Gokel alongside Southern Brit and Cam Ursery here. Glad to have you hanging out alongside of us. Again, Nick Fitzgerald coming up at 3:35. Also going to catch up with our good friend Brooks Austin from Dogs Daily on SI.com. A lot of people calling into question just how difficult is Georgia's schedule. I know CBS released their rankings of the schedule difficulty in the SEC. Georgia, number 12. I guess a lot of that has to do with the fact that you can't play yourself, but also no Alabama, no LSU on Georgia's schedule this year. So we'll catch up with Brooks Austin about that. But I wanted to talk to y'all. Who, when you think of highlight athletes, like you sit down, you watch their mixtape, who are the highlight athletes that immediately come to mind for you?
You want to go first?
You got it.
Highlight athlete.
Because
all time?
Like all time, like you're on YouTube and you're like, I'm just going to take Southern. You might not be weird like us. But like you're like, I'm gonna take it's midnight. I'm gonna take 20 minutes and I'm just gonna watch this guy or this girl's highlight for 20 minutes on YouTube.
Come on. Off the dome, Michael Vick, Johnny Manziel, Reggie Bush. As far as football, yeah, them three guys and maybe Randy Moss. Those are my top
Randy
four.
Moss I have not heard before. I mean, I get it.
Oh yeah,
but
Randy
like,
Moss,
yeah.
3 catches, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
on Thanksgiving Day.
That's true.
Yeah, so those are my guys for football. Basketball, easily Kyrie Irving, Kobe Bryant. That's quick.
Yeah, I've heard that one too. Yeah. I mean, Southern, do you have any that immediately come to your mind, like where you have gone out of your way to watch their highlights on YouTube?
No, Sean Marino.
Your dad doesn't count.
I was just about to say him.
You know, Danny Britt just with the Georgia Southern Eagles does not count. No, Sean's a great one. Hurtland, folks. Anyone else?
I mean, talking basketball, obviously, like Michael Jordan, looking him up.
Oh my goodness,
that's some highlights right there.
That's some boomer stuff right there. We're talking early 2000. No, like for me, there's a few people that immediately come to mind. You said Kyrie, like his mixtape, even from like AAU basketball, was insanity. I still believe he has the best handles in basketball. Period. Football, Tavon Austin when he was at West Virginia. Nuts. I mean, there's a few guys at West Virginia that I watched, like Pat White, Steve Slayton, those dudes. To me, the number one YouTube highlight guy, and maybe this doesn't bear out in the metrics, but just in my mind, it's Reggie Bush.
Yeah.
Right. It's Reggie Bush. Like a lot of people say he's the best running back in college football history. I wouldn't go that far. He's one of them. But I wouldn't go that far. But he was the most electric. And he came up at the perfect time with TV and social media just beginning, but still, like you had enough to where, like here, somebody can send you this on MySpace, can send you the Reggie Bush link to watch his highlights, watch the crazy stuff he was doing to the Oregon State, right? Like there's so many videos, the slow-mos, the reverses, the cutbacks, right, of Reggie Bush. And so he's the first one that pops into my mind. And it always hurts my heart because you see the picture of him holding up the Heisman Trophy.
He can't get it back.
And it's not his, right? He had to give it back. USC had to give back the replica trophy. Well, a lot of people have said since Name, Image, and Likeness has come out, including Reggie Bush and Johnny Manziel, should we go ahead and give them their Heismans back? So should we say, hey, NCAA, reinstate their records. Hey, Heisman, give them their Heismans back. The Heisman Trust has actually come out and responded to this. I want to read what they said. They said, quote, the Heisman Trust believes the recent decision by the NCAA to allow student athletes the ability to control their name, image, and likeness is a positive step in the right direction. The Heisman Trust supports any legislation that will protect and benefit all student athletes. So very generic, saying, no, we're with the times. We're cool. We're hip. We're all about it, right? The on-field accomplishments of Reggie Bush during the 2005 season at USC were remarkable and remain in the memories of all college football fans that had the privilege of witnessing him in action. So again, saying, we didn't take the Heisman Trophy from him for off the field, on the field, anything like that. It was NCAA violation. So they're saying we can still recognize he was an unbelievable football player and very deserving of the Heisman Trophy. Subsequent to Bush being awarded the 2005 Heisman Trophy, the NCAA concluded an investigation that he and his family had received impermissible benefits while a student athlete at the University of Southern California and vacated his playing records as well as those of the entire USC football team. So it's not just Reggie Bush's, it's the national championships, it's the records inside the conferences, the wins and losses. Those are gone. In 2010, Bush announced that he would forfeit his title as the Heisman Trophy winner, and the Heisman Trust vacated the 2005 award. Bush returned his trophy, and USC returned its replica trophy to the Heisman Trust. The Heisman Trophy ballot used by voters has a rule governing eligibility for the award. In order that there will be no misunderstanding regarding the eligibility of a candidate, the recipient of the award must be a bona fide student of an accredited college or university, including the United States academies. The recipient must be in compliance with the bylaws defining an NCAA student athlete. So they've said it, and they're saying the reason we took it back is he was not in compliance with the bylaws defining an NCAA student athlete. Bush's 2005, again, this is quoted, Bush's 2005 season records remained vacated by the NCAA, and as a result, under the rules set forth by the Heisman Trust and stated on the Heisman ballot, he is not eligible to be awarded the 2005 Heisman Trophy. Should the NCAA reinstate Bush's 2005 status, the Heisman Trust looks forward to welcoming him back to the Heisman family. So the Heisman Trophy Trust said, don't look at us. Don't look at us. As soon as the NCAA says he's good, he can come back to the Heisman house and hang back with all the cool guys during the Nissan commercials.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get it back.
I think the NCAA, if they want to salvage anything here, you got to start looking at some of this stuff.
I mean, I agree. You have to. I mean, Reggie Bush,
who does it hurt? Who does it hurt to reinstate Reggie Bush's stuff?
It doesn't hurt nobody. I mean, he was a game changer.
Nobody else got awarded the Heisman Trophy. He just got vacated.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, me personally, I don't think it should. It's not going to bother anybody. Reggie Bush was a game changer for college football. Think about how much money he brought to college football. Just him alone.
Unbelievable amount.
Him alone. I mean, Reggie Bush was an icon. He was
on the cover of
06 or 07.
One of them, yeah.
Yeah, I had it on the little PSP. Yeah. I mean, Reggie Bush is the best college running back I've ever seen in my life. Until, he got stopped by Texas.
That doesn't make it not great.
Yeah, I was still upset about that night. Vince Young was amazing, but still, he generated a lot of money, and that is considered the greatest.
But I think that's a good point, right? It's because he hasn't stopped earning money.
For
college football,
exactly.
Right? ESPN plays that national championship against Texas on repeat.
Greatest game of all time.
Yeah, I mean, they play that all the time. And why is it the greatest game of all time? Because you have Vince Young, because you have Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, Lindell White, all those guys. You have Matthew McConaughey on one sideline and Will Ferrell on the other sideline, right? That's why it's the greatest game of all time. But inside of that, it's because Reggie Bush was Reggie Bush.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like since this is all changed, I think it's okay, Southern, to go back and say, because the rules have changed, we're going to put his records back.
I think that
I know a lot of people disagree with me there.
I think that Reggie Bush, obviously, like the Heisman Trust said, I mean, he is recognizable by everyone. He deserved the title. But when you're playing the game, you got to play by the rules.
Oh, okay.
And while I think that it would be a really smart move for the NCAA right now to say, hey, we welcome you back to the Heisman family. Like, we totally recognize that these times have changed. However, I am a little bit on the team that says, I mean, you were in the step of the right direction. You were a part of making that change for NCAA to come out with name, image, and likeness. So you're obviously recognized for your talents, but you didn't play by the rules in your time. So I'm sorry.
Even if it has been admitted now by the NCAA that those rules were wrong.
Wrong. Completely wrong. I don't know. I think that they should do it to save their butt because sports is a business world now.
If you were working PR at the NCAA, you'd be like, guys, the hell are we doing right now?
If I am working PR with NCAA, I'm saying, yes, they should welcome him back. However, I'm playing devil's advocate here. Sports is a business, and You got to play by the
Well,
rules.
you made a very good point there. Sports is a business, and
Welcome them back.
and
Might generate more money.
Well, no, sports is a business, and Reggie Bush was an unpaid asset in that business who tried to better his life during that time, and it was only thing that made it wrong was rules that you had set forth and have now changed.
Yeah.
Now they change them.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, not to draw too many comparisons here, but I think one of the biggest things Major League Baseball has done is they have added the Negro League records to the official Major League Baseball records because they realized what we had in place was wrong at the time. These should have already been integrated, but because they weren't, we're going to add those records back.
For sure.
And so if you're looking, I think it's okay to look back and say what we were doing was wrong. And so if what we were doing was wrong for somebody else to do something wrong, I guess to try to better themselves or better their situation, which in Reggie Bush's terms was getting his mom, I think it was a condo, was one of the things he received.
Condo, like a house.
Yeah, a condo for his mom. And I'm sure there was money going there. And I think the other undercurrent to all of this is everyone's like, this is going on inside college football, regardless of name, image, and likeness. Right, yeah. Reggie Bush is not the only one who has ever received impermissible benefits, right? But he is the one who has been punished the most, I would say, for the most part, and because none of his records exist right now. And so he really can't be welcomed back in as one of those great Heisman and one of those great college running backs, because if you look at the record books, they don't exist.
So do y'all think it would be financially beneficial to bring him back?
1,000%.
Okay, because my thing
I
is,
agree 1,000%.
I know NCAA football is coming back out with their video games. You could put Reggie Bush on the cover again, right? Make money off of that. He can make money off of that.
Well, what I think is funny is it's not NCAA. It's EA Sports in partnership with. I think they have 120 out of 130.
Yeah,
colleges signed up right now, so NCAA doesn't have to worry. Like, they're not worried about the NCAA.
I mean, but to your point, they would 100% benefit. The Heisman Trust, NCAA would benefit from inviting him back to the Heisman family. Again, I, as a person, would love for Reggie Bush for that to happen to him. But when I think of the businesses here and who's heading it, sometimes they want to stick to their guns and they don't want to allow that to happen. So
that's true.
I mean, we'll see how it plays out.
It's one of those things for me where it's like, if he was using steroids or something else along those lines, or if it like came out that he was using like Stickum on his hands when he was catching passes or stuff like that, or if there was something with paying officials for USC to lose some of their wins. Yeah, absolutely. If like coaches were betting on games, sure.
If it was messing with the game.
If it was actually messing with the game. But I don't think Reggie Bush's mom getting a condo is the reason Oregon State with 25 defenders couldn't tackle him.
No, it doesn't.
Right? Like that I don't think affected it. And USC, I can almost guarantee, earned 1,000% more off of having Reggie Bush at their school than Reggie Bush earned for being at USC.
Very true.
So it's just one of those things. I think, listen, like, we can admit when we were wrong. We can admit that, yeah, even if the rules of the time said this wasn't it, we can go back and change those and reinstate those rules. And if anything, for me, is righting a wrong. I think that's fine. I don't think you take a PR hit from that. I think you take a PR hit from consistently saying no. Like, it was like the first tweet almost as soon as midnight hit on July 1st was Johnny Manziel saying, hey, while we're at it, let's give Reggie Bush his Heisman back.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's completely fine. Johnny Manziel admitted to making tens of thousands of dollars for signing autographs while he was at Texas A&M. Now, he did say, that was after I got my Heisman. That was after I got my Heisman, so they couldn't take his Heisman trophy away from him. But he literally admitted to making money for being Johnny Manziel while at Texas A&M.
Got a point.
It's okay to go back and change some stuff. I think give him his Heisman back. I think that's fine. We got to take a quick break here. We'll come back. Got some more college football to dive into. Cam kind of segued us into it nicely. If you guys want to get in on the conversation, you can hop in on our Facebook live feed, also on YouTube and Twitter as well. If you want to give us a call, 912-342-7184. Ben Anderson on Facebook. He wanted to chime in with some of the athletes he loved watching the mixtapes of. Percy Harvin, number one. If you don't appreciate, number one, what Percy Harvin did in the NFL, because Percy Harvin for a good 3 or 4 years was one of the most electric players in Minnesota and then Seattle, right? Taking that kickoff back against the Broncos. But beyond that, when he was with, I think he played with Brett Favre in Minnesota. So much fun to watch NFL. Borderline unstoppable in college football.
Yeah.
Like him and Tim Tebow on the same team wasn't really fair, but he was one of those players where you watch him, and specifically he was playing Georgia. You held your breath every time he had the ball because you're like, this dude's going to score. Like every time he touches football. So Percy Harvin, a really good one. Said Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow, I don't know if I'm with you on that. Like obviously Tim Tebow to me is the greatest college quarterback ever. Don't know if I think of like mixtape when I think of Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow is more of a I'm going to bowl you over 7 yards at a time versus like juke moves. But then how about a Tracy McGrady reference here, Cam? A T-Mac reference.
It depends. Orlando T-Mac maybe, but
he said
I don't know about highlights.
Yeah, he said Melo too. Like obviously Melo. We can put Carmelo.
New
York
York Knicks.
Yeah, that's fair.
Nuggets.
That's fair with Melo there. So fair. I don't know if with the Tim Tebow and the T-Mac, but definitely with the Melo and the Percy Harvin. Going to take a quick break here. We'll come back and talk some more college football next. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. 2 different locations in Savannah to take care of all your uniform needs. Doctors, nurses. If you have kids that need school uniforms, the Uniform Source is your one-stop shop. All right, got a couple things I want to get into in this segment. We'll start with the serious business. We're going to talk about fatal flaws.
Fatal flaws.
Fatal flaws. Because I feel like there's a lot of really good teams in college football this year, but think about the teams that have won the national championships over the past few years. You basically have to be perfect if you're going to win a national championship in college football. LSU, basically perfect when they won, right?
Yeah.
Alabama, they had like maybe a quarter and a half where they like just forgot they were playing against Georgia, and then they turned it on in the second half and just decimated everyone until the SEC championship game where they ran into a really good Florida team, got it done, and then blew their way through the college football playoffs, right? You have to basically be perfect. And if you have a weakness, it's going to get exposed. For Alabama last year at the beginning of the year, I'd say it was their defensive front and just blown coverages in the secondary, right? They tightened that up for the most part. I don't think anybody in college football was really stopping Florida last year, so I'm not going to hold the SEC championship away from them. But Alabama fixed what could have been their fatal flaw, got their defense solidified, and they went and ran roughshod against the rest of college football and won the national championship. So reason I'm talking about this, because I feel like we have paid so much attention to JT Daniels this year, right? He is the savior. That 4-game stretch, 1,231 yards, 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, right? He's the guy that we've been missing. We haven't had a guy like JT Daniels since Aaron Murray. We're just slinging the ball all over the place, setting SEC records, right? He's the one who's going to save it. I don't think you can win a national championship without JT Daniels. I don't, right? But I don't think he's the most crucial part. I was talking to Cam about this. I feel like right now, if you have a solid offensive line, solid wide receivers, the running backs you have, and the defensive front and defensive secondary you now have with the transfers in, I feel like Georgia could probably win the SEC East with any of their quarterbacks.
Agreed.
Carson Beck, Brock Vandegrift, throw them in there. Stetson Bennett if he had to come back out and play again, right? I feel like they could win the SEC East without JT Daniels. What I don't feel like they could win the SEC East without is really good offensive line play. That's where I think Georgia's season hinges on the job Matt Luke has done this offseason. Because last year against teams like Mississippi State, who held Georgia to 0.3 yards per carry, I get it. They were loaded the box. Brooks Austin can come on here as much as he wants and talk to me about loaded box and zero coverages and all that. If you're the University of Georgia, you should always be able to run the football against Mississippi State.
Very true.
Right? 1.9 yards per carry against Cincinnati. And Cincinnati wasn't running near the kind of cover zero that Mississippi State was running. You just couldn't move anybody off the ball. And you have all these blue chip prospects. You have all these guys who are 6'7", 330 pounds that are supposed to be road graders. And you had a lot of running backs kind of running up their legs last year because there was just no room being created. JT Daniels, I believe, sacked 10 times last year in 4 games.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's more than 2 sacks a game. Against who? Because we keep talking about the great run he had. You played South Carolina, Mississippi State, OK Missouri team, and a really good Cincinnati team. But he got sacked 10 times in there. Your starting quarterback who's coming off a bum knee. I think Georgia's 2021 season, if they had 2017's offensive line or 2018's offensive line, Andrew Thomas, Isaiah Wilson, Solomon Kinley, I'm feeling way better going into this year. I'm saying legitimately number one or number 2 team in the country. I don't know, and I think the only thing that's separating them from being number 1 or number 2 in the country is we don't know about that offensive line. If you had 2 first-round picks coming back on the offensive line, which you might, we just don't know. But if you had Andrew Thomas and Isaiah Wilson coming back on the offensive line, you're feeling a lot better going into this year, right? Mm-hmm. And I think with as good as Georgia is, the season doesn't necessarily hinge on one guy. I don't think one guy can change a season like that, right? As good as Joe Burrow was, he had Jamar Chase, right? He had Justin Jefferson. You had Kayvon Chase on and Derek Stingley Jr. on that team, right? You had Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was the leading rusher in the SEC that year, right? Joe Burrow was amazing, but his team was amazing, right? So I don't think it hinges on one guy. Could be wrong. I know, Cam, you were saying, come on, JT's pretty important. I'm not disagreeing. I just think the season, if I had to say, if it hinges on one thing, to me, it's the offensive line.
I agree, but disagree with you. JT is not the most important person. I agree with that. But at the same time, the offensive line is not where I'm looking at. It's the receiving core.
Okay.
I just look at the last 3 years. You look at Clemson 2018, you have Justin Ross out there making the difference in the national championship. You go to 2019 LSU, you got the two future Pro Bowlers, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. In this past year, you got Devontae Smith with Jalen Waddle and Mechie.
Yeah.
Now, who's the guy for Georgia this year? We don't know.
I think Kyrus Jackson has a shot to be really good, but it's the younger guys I think a lot of people are looking at. Like Jermaine Burton, I think is the one that people say needs to step up, but I think it might be the two tight ends, Eric Gilbert and Darnell Washington, who people are saying that's kind of what makes Georgia a little bit different. I think they have the guys there, and even I don't want to mispronounce his name, Adonai Mitchell. It's not Adonai, but it's Adonai Mitchell.
The freshman.
Yeah, he had a great G-Day. And so I think there are some guys that could step up, but I think it has to be the Eric Gilberts, Jermaine Burtons, Kyrus Jackson. There's one guy we're forgetting about who was Georgia's, I think, best receiver during George Pickens' freshman year. It was also his freshman year, Dominic Blaylock. We did not see him last year, but I think his freshman year, he was better than George Pickens. He's the one who caught that huge touchdown against Auburn. He was way more consistent. I think he was Jake Fromm's number one target for the most part throughout that year. So if you get Dominic Blaylock back, I think he's a guy that can step up. I mean, Southern, we look at this Georgia team and you're like, one thing that it can hinge on, right? Because I think you can hide having a redshirt freshman or a freshman at a corner, right? I think you can hide something like that, right? You have a really good defensive front. You have great linebackers. To me, it's the offensive line. I don't know if that's where you feel like it could, in your opinion, be JT Daniels for sure. But to me, it's the offensive line.
I 100% agree. Offensive line all the way. Just like you said with the Joe Burrow analogy. Oh my gosh, that line protected him. It enabled him to make those throws and enabled it gets me.
Yeah, it gives so much space, so much time. Yep.
The quarterbacks always say, where does your success come from? The O-line. So they have to step up. We have to see execution there. I think that they have the players for it, but it'll be them actually executing what they can do.
And I will say this, I don't think the offensive line you see against Clemson will be the same offensive line you see at the end in terms of personnel, right? Because I think they're going to go with probably the most, I could be wrong here because they see these guys every day in practice, but I don't think you're starting a freshman at left tackle game one against Clemson with the studs they have on the defensive front. But I do think at some point this year, it's not out of the realm of possibility that a true freshman or a redshirt freshman is starting at left tackle for Georgia going into a game or at the end of the season once they get it under their belt. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. I mean, we saw Andrew Thomas do that, where he was starting as a true freshman, right? So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, but I do think you see some senior guys up in there who are going to start the year who might not be there at the end of the year. I want to take a quick break, though. I want to give us enough time for this last segment. We're going to talk when we come back. We're going to do some player ratings when we come back inside of college football. Christian Gokel alongside Cam Ursery and Southern Brit. We'll be right back after this. All right, so we were talking about this at the end of the last segment here. If EA Sports college football came back this year, which we might see that timeline accelerated now with all the NIL stuff. If they came back this year and we were just doing pure Madden ratings, like NCAA scale of 1 to 99 overall, who's the highest rated player in college football this year?
Highest rated player. I would have to go maybe Spencer Rattler. 98,
you just
99.
You just ride for Spencer Rattler. Like, all right, have you seen the new logo? Are you gonna get the Spencer Rattler shirt and the hat?
That logo's cool. I might get the not the hat. I might get a t-shirt.
That's a t-shirt.
I like Spencer Rattler. I think he'll be the first overall pick this year. I liked him when he was on. I think it was QB1 in high school.
Yeah.
I liked it. I like him. I think he 98. I don't think there's a 99 in college football this year.
Really?
There's not a player that's like that this year. But I could say 97, 98, very solid. And he's an OU quarterback, so he's going to put up numbers.
All right, Southern.
I think JT Daniels would be up there.
No.
I do think he would be up there.
Do you have to say that like legally because of your job?
Hey,
Like,
no.
JT Daniels,
No
number
bias
one.
here.
It sounds like there's a little bit of bias.
It might be. It might be.
Hey, I think I know he's past his time.
I don't
but
know that he's one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the SEC.
Listen,
Ooh.
but you know who would be a top player who's not in college football right now, but Devontae Smith.
Yeah, Devonta Smith definitely would have been one. Like he would have been a 99 overall. Like they do like the updates during the season. He definitely.
Oh
would have
yeah,
been a
everyone
99.
would want him. Everyone.
Trevor.
I got a few.
Okay.
Kayvon Thibodeau, defensive end
Oregon.
with
Yeah,
Oregon.
okay.
He's an absolute monster. Derek Stingley Jr., I think, would absolutely be up there. I think Evan Neal, though, at Alabama, I think he's what? 6'7", 360 pounds, and he just doesn't look it. Like you carry 350 plus pounds well. Dude's a monster. Like Nick Saban has said about him, we've never had an offensive lineman like him come through. I was like, excuse me?
Wow.
The school of Andre Smith and Cam Robinsons, right? Just like, just literally first round pick after first round pick. Alex Leatherwood this past year, he's like, we've never had one like him come through.
That's high praise.
That is high praise.
Really
From Nick
high
Saban.
praise. One guy I do think that we're going to see, and we haven't been paying attention to these past couple of years, but I think we need to, is Brenton Cox. Georgia fans probably remember that name because he played for Georgia his freshman year and then transferred to Florida. I think he's going to be a stud coming up this year. He was really good last year. I think he's going to like bump himself up into like top 15 pick territory.
I can't argue that. Brenton went to my rival school.
Really?
Stockbridge.
Okay.
And yeah, he was a monster when we was in high school. So I believe in that. He could rise up there, but another guy I might give, and I know you don't, he could have a good year. I don't think a winning year is Bo Nix.
Cam, no.
It's Bo Nix.
Cam, no.
He can squeak
What?
into 95,
Cam,
96.
no, Cam
I
has
love
like
Bo Nix.
Cam has like
I
2
do.
quarterbacks he rides for. It's Spencer Rattler and Bo Nix. Like he is he's a
His
Bo
name's
Nix
Bo.
stan. He's
That's
a Bo
a
Nix
cool
stan.
name.
How much Milo's tea have you bought since he came out with that
None.
NIL deal?
Hey, I
drink
do
tea.
think a lot of people feel the same way that you do, though, about Bo Nix.
Yeah, I love Bo.
I mean, Bo Nix is great, right? I mean,
Yeah, right.
true freshman, won the Iron Bowl. He's got a new coach coming in, but he was not good last year. Like, I think if he would done his ratings during the year last year, he'd been like 79.
Whoa.
Yeah,
wow.
like 'cause that's what he was. Not accurate,
84.
not accurate, super athletic. The only reason he would have been that high is because of his speed rating.
His
Like that's the only reason. It wouldn't have been like maybe arm strength, but like the accuracy sliders, definitely down for Bo Nix. I mean, do I hope he has a bounce back year? Sure. I think Bo Nix is a really good quarterback. I just thought he had a really bad year last year. I can't go in with him. I think if we had to do who would be the highest rated quarterback in the SEC this year, probably Matt Corral. If I had to say out of Ole Miss,
this year
yeah,
from the start.
yeah, arm strength, speed, accuracy,
Matt Corral,
yeah.
JT, Bryce Young. Bryce Young off a hype.
Yeah, Bryce Young's going to be really good. But again, big show coming up on 3 and Out. We're going to catch up with former Richmond Hill and Mississippi State quarterback Nick Fitzgerald. Also coming up in a little bit, catch up with our good friend Brooks Austin. All that coming up next on 3 and Out. If you missed any portion of the show, check it out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.